We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Kate Meese. I'm an Associate Director at the Local Government Commission, and this is our fourth of 15 webinars we will be hosting over the next 3 years through the Statewide Energy Efficiency Collaborative, which is a partnership between the Local Government Commission, ICLEI, the Institute for Local Government, and the 4 investor-owned utilities. The partnership was established in the CPUC decision for 2010 to 2012 to help cities and counties reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save energy. A little bit about the webinar logistics before we get started. Due to the large number of participants, everyone will be muted for the duration of the webinar. If you have questions at any time during the webinar, please type them in the question box on the control panel window with the name of the speaker your question is intended for and click the send button. If you are having technical difficulties, write IT in the question box followed by the problem you are experiencing. We will be trying to answer as many questions as possible through the chat function during the presentations. We will summarize the remaining questions for the speakers during the question and answer portion at the end of each panel. The presentations from this webinar are available on our website at lgc.org/seek/webinars. We'll also be adding a recording of the webinar once it is available. When the webinar concludes, you will be asked to complete a survey. Please take 5 minutes to provide us with input, which will help us to improve our future webinars. The goal of this webinar is to provide information about Energy Upgrade California specific to local governments. The breadth of the Energy Upgrade California program is truly unprecedented, and as evidenced by the number of speakers we have on our agenda. And these are just a few of the key stakeholders involved in this program. Because of the large number of players, I know there has been some confusion as to what role each organization or agency plays, so we hope to bring some clarity to that today. Additionally, we know that the program won't be successful without the meaningful engagement of local government. You all will be key to rolling out local programs and ensuring sustainability moving forward. So we'll also be talking today about resources available to help you promote the program and opportunities for you to provide input that will guide local implementation. In addition to the speakers you see listed on the agenda, we have a few other panelists who will be participating in the Q&A sections. Omri Cristianto from Edison, Cynthia Swam from Southern California Gas Company, Nathan Bruner from San Diego Gas and Electric, and Brian Gitt from BKI will all be available in addition to the speakers to answer your questions. The first portion of the webinar will focus on the statewide program. The Local Government Commission is serving as a prime contractor and program lead for the CEC on the statewide program. We are working closely with Ecology Action, Renewable Funding, MIG, the California Alternative Energy and Advanced Transportation Financing Authority, and other subcontractors to administer the program. At this time, I will turn it over to CEC to talk about the goals of the statewide program, and then to our key team members to talk about specific tools and resources available and opportunities for local government involvement. I'm going to introduce all of the speakers for the first panel up front, and we'll take questions at the end of the panel. Christine Colby is an Energy Commission specialist with the California Energy Commission. She is the Commission's project coordinator for Energy Upgrade, and she is tasked with engaging stakeholders and directing collaboratives to fully implement this program. Brennan Jensen is currently the Senior Manager for Energy Upgrade California on behalf of Ecology Action's Climate Group. And we have Annie Henderson, who is the Program Director for Renewable Funding, a private company providing turnkey administration, financing, and technology services for clean energy programs. And lastly, we have Mindy Craig, who is a principal with MIG and Company and has over 18 years of experience in strategic communications and marketing, planning and facilitation for public agencies. At the end of this panel, we'll take questions. Our new project manager for Energy Upgrade, Atisha, is going to read off some of the questions that came in at that time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christine. And Christine, you are now unmuted.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Or good afternoon. This is
Yeah,
Christine.
we can hear you just fine.
This is Christine Colopy, and I'm with the California Energy Commission. And I am, as Kate just mentioned, I am the internal coordinator for the Energy Upgrade California program. I work with all the internal stakeholders as well as many of the external stakeholders as well. So I'm just going to talk for just about 5 minutes about what role the Energy Commission plays in Energy Upgrade California. First and foremost, we were the administrator of the ARA, State Energy Program Funds, otherwise known as the ARA Federal Stimulus Funds. We were the administrator of that, as well as being the administrator of the the Energy Upgrade California program. We're working in conjunction with the California Public Utilities Commission, and then we have a whole host of other partners, probably including many of you. We're really tasked with coordinating the Energy Upgrade partners and the various programs under this one program umbrella and also under one brand. One of the other main goals of this is, we want to make sure that this is sustainable. We want to make sure Energy Upgrade California program is sustainable, the web portal as well as program, and we want to make sure that when we're creating this program that we are developing a platform for other infrastructures to use beyond when the ARA funding runs out, which is next March of 2012. So why is Energy Upgrade California important to the Energy Commission? Well, as Kate mentioned, it's an unprecedented collaboration. It's between the Energy Commission, Public Utilities Commission, local governments, utilities, and also the private sector. This is a program where all California building owners can participate. It's for statewide energy and water efficiency as well as renewable energy generation improvements. It's for single-family homes initially. Then we're going to be working into the multifamily market as well as commercial markets. This web portal, it's truly a one-stop shop that consolidates all of the federal, the state, utility, and local government rebates, incentives, and financing, all under one roof and one brand. This is really going to help reduce consumer confusion and make it easy for those consumers to take action with upgrades. One of the other things that's really important to us is that it also consolidates training programs. So Energy Upgrade California, it incorporates other ARA funding efforts such as the Clean Energy Workforce Training Programs, and it also is going to be a huge boost for job creation. Energy Upgrade Program is going to assist owners to find what we are calling participating contractors in their communities, and that's going to help boost the local economies by creating well-paying jobs, that construction sector so badly needs right now. And ultimately, this will help the state reduce the greenhouse gases and reach our climate change goals. Now, when looking at what local governments can do, the critical role that the local governments play, you're the front line. We're looking to you to provide, critical program input from the field, what's working, what's not working. This is being rolled out over a 12-month period, so we want to make sure that we hear you and we can take any kind of course correction if need. We want you to help us publicize the program. You can do that. You're going to hear from other speakers after me about enhancing your county pages. We want you to partner with others in your community. We want you to collaborate with others. This is a statewide program. So we want to make sure that you're collaborating with folks. We want you to leverage your resources. Those dollars can come from your marketing and outreach areas, your workforce development areas, and also to support the contractors in your community. So I know when you're thinking, what can we do in the local, in the local government community, there's opportunities for you to participate and provide input. One of the things that we've recently established is the Energy Upgrade California organizational management structure. And that structure, it includes a steering committee, a coordinating group, and then technical advisory committees. And there are opportunities for local governments to participate both in the steering committee and the coordinating group. We've established a group that we feel is representative of the entire state based on regions. And so there, you will have opportunity to work through those folks on the steering committee, or the coordinating group will be open to the public and held like every 2 months. And those will be open, and everybody can come and provide input and comments. So that's going to be one of the many ways that we can hear you about what might be working or what might need to change in your community. So with that, I just want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you all so much for participating in Energy Upgrade California. It's very exciting. We're live, and it's a very exciting time in this huge effort. So thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to the next speaker.
Hello, this is Brennan Jensen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Brennan, we can hear you. Sorry, I was unmuted there. I did just want to, before I go back to muting myself, remind everybody that we are taking questions while people present. So if you want to go ahead and type any question that you may have for Christine, or as Brennan starts talking, if you want to go ahead and type those in the chat, or excuse me, in the question box, we can start to compile those for the end when we take questions.
Fantastic. This is Brennan Jensen with Ecology Action. I'm very pleased to be part of this webinar here today. Our organization is an environmental nonprofit organization. We've been around for 40 years working with local communities to establish long-term environmental programs that help to improve environmental quality as well as community well-being. We work in the fields of energy, alternative transportation, water efficiency, pollution prevention, and climate. And this is really a tremendous opportunity to be part of Energy Upgrade California. As we're waiting for the slides to come up, I'll go ahead and just start kind of going through an overview. This program actually has 3 different tiers of participation, and Christine began to outline some of these pieces. There are a fair number of services that are actually available throughout all 58 counties within California, so really all counties are receiving tremendous benefits in the form of a marketing toolkit, support in terms of statewide marketing, a web portal, financial clearinghouse, as well as workforce scholarships. And those will be discussed a little bit more in depth as we move through the process. In addition, we have approximately half of the counties that are receiving some increased services, and those are for counties that have already shown leadership in the area of energy efficiency. Perhaps they work to establish a PACE program or made some efforts in that way, have made some significant efforts in terms of their climate action goals. And this is an opportunity for us to help leverage some of those concurrent activities that are happening at the local level with additional program resources in those areas. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that might look like on the local level here in just a moment. The third tier is PACE pilot programs, and that will occur in 4 different regions throughout the state of California. Folks that have been really on the leading edge of establishing PACE, including Sonoma County, the city of LA, the city and county of San Francisco, as well as the county of Placer. And those will be incorporated into the overall Energy Upgrade California efforts. So moving to the next slide. One of the things, Ecology Action basically has 2 different functions within this particular program. One is serving as program administrator on behalf of local government commission, and then we also are working to provide on-the-ground delivery support in the Program Plus areas with the goal of increasing energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy generation installations and upgrades throughout the state of California. In 3 different areas by providing outreach and education, technical assistance, as well as customer support to 3 different target audiences, and that includes the contracting community, the property owners, as well as local governments. And really we could actually break down each of those categories into several subcategories. So for instance, in terms of property owners, we would be doing outreach to single-family homes. We would also be engaging multifamily homes at some point in the future. And then also we'll be expanding to the commercial realm as we move forward. And then, of course, there would be targeted messages to different industry sectors. In terms of local governments, that's where we are looking for some additional support from folks who may be participating on this call. We will be, as I transition to the next slide, we will be forming local government advisory committees in each of the regions where we're active in terms of the Program Plus areas. And this breaks down to 6 regional areas throughout the state, from the North Coast, the Bay Area, the Capital region, Central Coast, Central Valley, and Southern California. In each of those regions, we'll have the opportunity to provide a venue where local governments can provide their input to how the program is rolling out, what resources exist currently in your local marketplace, where are the gaps, and how can we best fold in our program into what's already happening. So the program really has several pieces that it's doing sort of as kind of consistently throughout the state. But how exactly precisely we're rolling it out in each region, we do have some latitude within that, and so we'll be working closely with our local government partners, such as yourself, to help guide us in that process so that we can best meet your needs. In addition, there will be technical advisory councils, and those will consist of representatives from the industry sector, as well as some of your local government agency representatives from, for instance, your local workforce investment board, from your building departments, or from other key departments within your agency to help us in engaging with the workforce community. Transitioning to the next slide, I wanted to talk about a couple of the resources that we have available to help drive this change. And this is something that I think is really unique with this program, is helping to ensure that we have qualified contractors that can readily engage in this process by offering workforce scholarships to get BPI Building Analyst or HERS 2 certifications. Those are the requirements for being able to provide upgrades through this program, and so there will be scholarships available throughout the state and actually all 58 counties. So workforce people who are already contractors and maybe just need one additional certification will be able to move quickly through that process. In addition, targeted at the property owners, we have incentives to assist with the test out and test in and test out cost for homeowners to go through the HERS 2 testing process. So the way that this program works is that the property owners will actually engage in an initial assessment of their home to see what mechanisms might be most appropriate for them to install. And so that's the initial test-in basically gives that property owner an entire pathway of what they can do to improve the quality of their home, as well as address these issues of energy savings and environmental quality. At the end of the installation, there's also a test out, and the property owner would receive a score on what energy savings they were able to provide. That's something that actually can have long-term value for that property owner as something that becomes actually saleable in the market if they were to sell that home at some future time. In terms of sort of our overall timeline and next steps, we are currently undergoing sort of a new discovery process in each of the local regions, and engaging with our local government representatives. We will be looking to you to help provide some of that input as we establish the local government advisory committees. Many of you have been along with us on this road for quite some time, from some of those initial discussions that we started 1.5 years ago, in starting to think about how we can increase these types of installations throughout the state of California. Now that we're getting closer to implementation, we want to revisit that and see how things have continued to develop to make sure that as we start to implement, it still is in line with your needs. There will be continued planning and enhancement, and our initial field implementation is actually starting the 1st of March. and then we will continue with field implementation, rolling out in each community in its unique way through the end of March 2012. Now to just transition just a bit, Mindy will talk a little bit more about this as we, a little bit later in this presentation, but I mentioned the date of March 1st. March 1st is our program rollout where we're going to be launching a new media campaign to the public on a statewide level to let folks know that this program is officially rolling out. So we want folks to be aware that that is happening. There is a press release that is happening on a statewide level that will be released on March 1st, and it will be going out through a wire service, so it'll reach all newsrooms throughout California in print, radio, and television. So what that means is that if you have contacts with your local media outlets, it's not necessary for you to submit your own press release. You can rely on the state press release that will be submitted on behalf of all jurisdictions throughout California. If you are interested in supplementing that with an additional press release for your local area, you are, of course, welcome to do that. And what we will be providing is a boilerplate in terms of basic template language that you can utilize to highlight then specific additional enhancements that are already underway in your local community. We're also available to help take a look at what that language is if you need any assistance with going through that press release process. And then actually as we move forward, this will be a really critical piece in terms of how we will interact with you moving forward. We want to make sure that those local success stories that are happening in your local region are captured and promoted in that local marketplace. So there will be sort of more information to come on that, and Mindy, I'm sure, will touch a little bit more on the issue of media and public relations a little bit later on in the presentation. So kind of transitioning here to the end, if you, that's a little bit of an overview of how we will be involved in this program moving forward. We're certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have about program specifics on how we will be rolling out in your local area, and thrilled to have your input. So with that, I will pass it on to Annie Henderson, who will be discussing more specifics on the web portal.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Annie Henderson. If we can go to slide number 10, please. So, and while we're moving, thanks. I am with a group called Renewable Funding, and under the Local Government Commission contract with the California Energy Commission, we are responsible for developing the web portal, which has now become one of the most visible components, I think, of this program with its soft launch on February 14th. So we didn't have a whole lot of media attention or other PR, but the site did go live just 2 Mondays ago. So with that, can we go to the next slide, please? What I wanted to do today is just provide a very high-level overview of some of the key components of the web portal. I assume most of you have already gotten on and taken a look at it, but I specifically wanted to point out which components do become customized to a local county. So what we're looking at here is the initial statewide landing page. So there's a couple different ways to navigate around this page. If you go to the first yellow box at the bottom, sort of in the middle of the page, Why Upgrade Now, gives you a very high-level sort of walkthrough about what this program is, so that it's offering incentives, it's going to connect you with Contractor, here are the benefits of an energy upgrade. But if you go then to the Get Started box in the bottom right-hand corner, you can enter in your specific county name, and from there forward, all of the information is specific to your county. So can we go to slide 12, please? And I will mention that, you know, with our site being live at this point, it does not mean that it's done. We will be continuing to enhance and improve the site. We work in 2-week sprints, 2-week development sprints, so that you will see enhancements, improvements, slight changes about every 2 weeks. Some of those might not be as visible to the public. They might be more back-end functionality or improvements in speed of how things work. But there will also be some content updates and also additional functionality rolled into the site. So as an example, I took us to the county landing page for Sacramento County. And there is a couple points that I want to make about the initial county landing page. First is that we are working very closely with the investor-owned utilities. So in this instance, PG&E is co-branded. Their logo is present on this county landing page. So this has been quite an undertaking to get everybody on the same page and make certain that our goals and objectives are aligned with the messaging of the site. And we're very excited that we have successfully done this and launched the site for the initial soft launch of Energy Upgrade California. Now, a couple points I want to make about how this initial landing page is customized to your local county. At the bottom, you'll see upgrade updates. Now, these are news stories that will eventually, currently there's sort of default stories that are just statewide, but eventually local counties will be able to go in and create their own news stories or reference a press release. And then if those get this kind of placement here on the front page. So if there's something locally that you want to promote, an event or an incentive, you can create a news story about that, and it will have representation here on that front page. But overall, the objective of the site is to really drive a user towards implementing an energy upgrade. And we feel that the main triggers for that are, of course, the incentives, and so there's a strong representation of the incentives on the page, but we do have additional messaging about home comfort and health. But all of that happens when someone finds a contractor. So find a participating contractor there on the right-hand column, the sidebar there with the button. That is also very prominent on this site because we want to drive a homeowner to action, and that action really is sort of best promoted by that contractor who provides them with the estimate, provides more information about the project itself, and really looks at their specific home because every project will be unique. Even though we do offer, of course, through the IOUs, these incentive rebate packages, each project is going to be unique, and that's really driven by a participating contractor. So can we go to the next slide? So as you can see across the top, there are a number of what we call primary navigation tabs. And the one that is highlighted on what you're seeing on your screen is local info. Now below that, you'll see a sort of light yellow row, and you'll see 3 additional navigation tabs. These are the sub-navigation tabs. So the information here, we are still working on this process, but will be accessible by a local county administrator, and you'll be able to update much of this content. We believe there is some messaging that needs to remain fixed, and Mindy might be able to speak to this a bit more during her segment. But the overview message, the news and events, that will be something that a local government, a local county, can provide local information about what's going on. Another critical part, I think, of this local info page, you'll see on that right-hand side in the sidebar, the bottom button is city or county staff access the resource library. Now, the resource library is something that some of you may already have access to and have had access to since before this site was live. That is the resource library that MEG has been supporting and maintaining and adding more resources to almost by the day. And so you'll go there for the marketing toolkits and the various pieces of collateral that you can use locally to support your programs. Next slide, please. So another critical area for local information is back to those primary navigation tabs, and I tried to squeeze this into one slide. You have the Find a Contractor, and you also have rebates and incentives. So as soon as a user enters in, for example, Sacramento County on the statewide page and gets to that county landing page, the only information they're going to see from here on out is going to be specific to Sacramento County. So in that upper right box or upper left box where it says Find a Contractor, they're only going to see contractors that have identified that they serve Sacramento County. And in this instance, they may see both PG&E and SMUD contractors, but both of those programs are active within Sacramento County, so that information will be available. In the bottom right box, we see the rebates and incentives. Again, this is going to show up specific to those rebates and incentives that are available in Sacramento County. Now, I want to provide a little bit more information about how we get this information, because I think a lot of our initial questions on the site have been about rebates and about contractors. So currently, the Energy Upgrade California site gets a nightly feed from what was formerly the Flex Your Power database and is now part of Engage 360, which is a site that is sponsored by the IOUs and the CPUC. So they maintain essentially the master database, with the one exception of the whole house rebates. Those we've had to manually enter in order to make them populate on the site, but eventually Engage 360 will also sort of manage the master list for those as well. So anytime as a local government, if you see rebate information that is not accurate, if it's a whole house program, you can contact us at Renewable Funding. If it's a single measure, then you actually need to go back to Engage 360 and make your correction there, because they're going to hold the master list. If we correct it in our site, it will get overwritten each night when we get that feed. So we want to make certain that each site has the same exact information and that there is one master list populating the two. Can we go to the next slide? So in some areas, there will be local financing. For all areas, the default is to provide some basic information about financing that already exists. We know that with PACE programs, though it's wonderful that some are still up and running, many have had to put their programs on hold or not continue in the development. And so what we heard from contractors is a lot of people had been waiting for these financing programs. So it was very important that there was information here that showed there is still financing out there. You can still move forward with your project. And in some local areas, there is a local financing. So in this example, SMUD offers a utility loan program. So we've included that in Sonoma. They would have the Sonoma County Energy Independence Program. And in currently 4, and I hear soon to be 16 counties, there will be the CHF Residential Loan Program, which was also funded by the CEC with SEP funds. So just wanted to point out some of the, again, local customization of the site specific to financing. We are working with CATFA, which is a division of the State Treasurer's Office, to develop a financing clearinghouse. We will be doing additional engagement with local lenders. There will be a series of public workshops. As a state agency, they must go through a very specific process. Those workshops are currently still being planned, but it looks like the March-April timeframe is likely to happen. You'll be able to come back to the site and see notification of those workshops if you would like to participate, or if you as a local government are already working with a local lender and would like them to be able to participate in the clearinghouse, or at least be knowledgeable so they can make that decision about participation. All that information on those public workshops will get posted on the website, so that if you do have local credit unions or other local lending institutions, they can be represented on the site. Okay, and then next slide, please. So now that I've shown you some of the local information that is currently on the site, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how local participation can occur, and looking at that through the lens of contractors, rebates, and local content. So for contractors, they must, of course, go to the utility training program, whether that's PG&E, SoCal Edison, SoCal Gas, SDG&E, or SMUD. They must first be certified as a whole house contractor eligible to receive that rebate, or they must register with the CEC Solar List, which is at gosolarcalifornia.org. We then send them a registration invitation or an invite email with a unique URL that allows that contractor to click on it and register to be displayed on the Energy Upgrade California website. It also allows them to provide additional information about which counties they serve. So they can, even if they're based in Alameda, they can indicate that they serve Alameda, Contra Costa, San Mateo, and San Francisco as an example, and also which languages they support. So all of that information through our enhancements will eventually appear on the site. But that is how a contractor does get displayed on the site. So of course the first sort of authoritative list is coming from the IOUs. With the rebates, as I mentioned before, your local rebates are coming to us through the Flex Your Power, now Engage 360 database, And if you want to change your local information, you do have to go through Engage 360, with the exception right now of the whole house rebates. If you are not currently a participating organization with Engage 360, they are working out the criteria for accepting new organizations to enter those rebates. And as of today, I have heard that they'll be able to establish that criteria and begin reviewing new organizations in mid-March. So we're already at the end of February. We're just talking a matter of weeks. And so that's going to be the process to get the local rebates onto the site. And I believe, I don't want to put words in Brennan's mouth, but I believe that Ecology Action will be able to help facilitate this on the local level. And then with the local content, I know many of you are very eager to get access to this and put up some local messaging. We do have a lot of stakeholders that are involved in this site, which makes it a very valuable site. But it also means that we have to make sure that all of our objectives and messaging is aligned. And so we too, just like Engage 360, need to establish the criteria by which we're going to provide access to content and allow for customization of content. But we are in the process of doing that. And when we do establish that criteria, we'll be providing what we call a CMS training, a content management system training, so that we can provide access to local governments and to our partner program administrators so that the local content can be placed on the site. And then I have my final slide, which has my contact information. And I'll just wrap up by saying we have a feedback. And I apologize, I wrote this wrong. It should not be Renew Fund. It should be energyupgradeca.org. Apologize for that. It should be feedback@energyupgradeca.org. If you send any questions you have to that email goes through a tracking system that allows me to either assign it to some of our partner associations if it's a question more appropriate, for example, for Ecology Action. But it also allows me to sort of track the issues and the requests. And that all helps inform us as we prioritize and develop this enhancement plan. All of your feedback is taken into account. So if you have some questions, go to feedback@energyupgradeca.org. Thank you very much. And with that, I believe the presentation is turned over to Mindy Craig from MIG.
I need to be unmuted. There we go. Hello. How are you? Are we ready to move on to the next set of slides? So I'm Mindy Craig with MIG, and we are working on the marketing communications around Energy Upgrade California and have been working sort of from the beginning with both local governments and the utilities to develop a unified brand and tagline that we can use to manage this program. Next slide. To start all this, and I know some of you probably have heard some of this information, so I'm going to go relatively quickly. So these are animated, so if you can go ahead and just animate all of these under control, that'd be great. I'm just going to quickly go over where our baseline is, because I think that is informing all the marketing that we are planning to do and thinking about doing in many different markets. First of all, we're targeting for Energy Upgrade California right now in the residential program. Homeowners in this age 35 to 54. Incomes, kind of middle income, depending on where they are. A very diverse audience. People in our research said that a lot of individuals like this idea and were interested in being involved in Energy Upgrade California in the whole house approach. And that people who have many people in their families, larger with school-age children, are going to be more likely to participate. And those who speak Spanish as a primary language are also going to be very interested in participating in Energy Upgrade California. And this is based on research both in Los Angeles County, in the Bay Area, in Alameda County, and focus groups up and down the state. And it was amazingly consistent. Next slide. And these are also, you can animate, you can keep on going quickly on through these. The other pieces that we're looking for when we're thinking about marketing and the messaging on all levels is that we're talking about homes that are built before 1940, or really to expand that to 1978. People who have already made some kind of energy upgrade already are much more likely to do more, interestingly. So we're looking at those people, and contractors particularly are going to want to look at those as they look to build their market. And then that idea of transitioning when they're buying a house or they're about to have a baby, people want to do changes, and this is a really good program for them to do that. Okay, next slide. And what are the messages? We found everywhere, no matter how green or how much people want to drive or any of those things, that money was the #1 issue on everyone's minds. They want to save with its rebates, or they want to save on their utility bills. That is the #1 message. And so when you see things out there, people have said, oh, well, what about the environment? That's a really important thing. We know it's an important thing, but it's not the #1 thing driving participation and motivation. It is, how do we save money on this? And especially with the economy, this is critical. So we start almost all of our messaging with those top things, saving with rebates or saving on utility bills. And then we want to follow up with these kind of secondary messages, which is really strong participating contractors are going to help you save money and leverage your efforts and help you do saving that money. That it will, in fact, help the environment and in climate change. And comfort and indoor air quality is actually a very important message, even though it's on the last one here. Especially when it's really cold outside or it's really hot as we're moving into the summer, that idea of getting your house more comfortable so you're not sweltering is going to be an important message. Next. And who are our messengers? I'm going to really focus on the top 2 here because I think they're perhaps the most important. Homeowners really want to hear about this from their neighbors. And Annie just went over in the website, that whole section about local and news. The reason we've done that and why we think it's really important for you is to start doing case studies of those neighbors and those homeowners in your county and your cities, because that is who people want to hear about. They want to hear about somebody who's local, connected to them, somehow has the same scenario as them. Secondly, and not least, is the contractors. Those messengers, they're going to be the ones who are actually in the house talking to consumers, and we want to make sure that they're given all the right tools, the messaging to do their job, because they're going to be the ones who are going to help consumers go from, I'm interested in this, to actually doing the upgrades. Next slide. Okay, so what are we doing? It's a big market in California, as we all know, and we have segmented it into 3 kind of big areas. One, the kind of this already there group, people who are very environmentally focused. They think about this issue already. They're on the cutting edge. They're ready to go. We're not necessarily marketing to them because they're ready to go. They just need to have the program ready and available, and they're going to jump into it. What we think is really our focus is this retrofit-ready group, and I gave you those characteristics a second ago. And these are the people who have the idea of it. They like the sense of it. They're going to be primed for it, but we have to just kind of give them a little push. We have to show them they're going to be able to save this money, and that there's going to be rebates, and they're going to have a better house at the end of the time. So we're calling them retrofit ready. And we think there's also kind of maybe one tier down from that, people who are the persuadables. We have to give them a little bit more information. We have to take them along that road, and the contractor is going to have to really give them the right package and the right messaging to get them there, but they're persuadable. So that is really where we're going to be focusing our marketing on, is the retrofit ready and the retrofit persuadables. The rest, and you can click, there's 2 more pieces on this slide. We're hoping that that next phase, as we move on, is going to be more effective, and they're going to be jumping on, but not right now. Okay, next. So I just want to quickly go through this branding, and I don't want to take up too much time because I know there's lots of people here. Let's go to the next slide. So this brand, it's about being dynamic, it's positive. We're really trying to make sure this is a sustained thing, and so for all the local governments, we want you to jump into this. We want you to buy into this concept, to use it as much as possible. We recognize that some of you have already got another program, you have some branding, and we've tried to develop ways of integrating both of those. But we think that Energy Upgrade California is an opportunity for us to create an umbrella statewide that is going to actually leverage all of our efforts. And we need to make sure it's a very positive brand. Let's go to the next slide. Critical to this is that we want to make sure the brand is about quality, and so everything we're doing with our contractors and with our outreach, with our stuff on the street, with community-based organizations, it's about quality and clarity. Everyone knows that this has been a really complex program. So the website and all the marketing, we're trying to keep it clear and crisp and make it understandable by anybody. We want creativity. we really want consistency, and this is what some of these webinars and a lot of the work we're trying to do is keep consistent, keep the messages together. So if you're in Sonoma County or if you're in Orange County, you have a consistent message. They may be somewhat different. They may have some of those different secondary messages, but you're not kind of confused about what those mean. Next slide. Okay, so I just want to kind of go quickly here. What are we trying to get consumers to do? Well, we want them really to go to the website. That's a really important thing statewide. But ultimately, get a contractor. We feel like they are the ones who are going to make this happen. So get a contractor, and they're going to help you figure out, do you do a basic upgrade package, an advanced upgrade package, or in some places an enhanced package, which might include green measures or other elements, water. But that's the first thing. Get a contractor. That's what we want them to do. Next slide. And we really want the contractors to be BPI certified. They need to participate in the program orientation and the training. And they need to be the right upfront person to the homeowners. They need to be able to get that message across. They need to be able to talk about these things, understand the benefits. And so we're providing a lot of materials to those contractors, and we're going to continue to give them training to how they can do that, because we know that they are going to be the ones who turn the key, if you will, on this process. Next. So here's the logo. We've all seen that. It took us a long time to get there, but it's there. We can go to the next one. This is a little bit more important in some ways because I want to show that there are different ways we can use these logos. And as local governments, we have the brand guidelines available, and I'll tell you in a second how to get those. So you can use this in different ways. Let's go to the next slide. It could be on a black background, a white background. We want to make sure that it's as accessible, as easy to use as possible. We also have just simple type where you can just have Energy Upgrade California in black. So if you have a colorful logo that you want to have next to it, the utilities want that, we can have that there, and it doesn't look like NASCAR. It actually looks appropriate, but it's all within our branding guidelines. Next slide. Here we go, the brand guidelines. And so this is available on a resource library, and if folks here have not gotten access to that, I want to give you my contact information after here so we can get you that resource. This is available, and it goes through everything from how to put up some advertising to a billboard to a flyer, how you can incorporate your logos or not use a logo for Energy Upgrade California. We're also providing some of these templates, and let's keep on going, and we'll get to those in a second for local government use. You can't really read this, but one of the also thing that's available on the resource library for you is what we're calling our vocabulary. We sat in a room with folks from the utility companies, a selection of local governments, to try and figure out what are the words we want to use. A really good example is the word audit. There was a lot of concern from consumers that I don't want to be audited. This doesn't sound like a good thing. So we said, okay, let's use as a state energy assessment instead of energy audit. Now we still have to get that in the vernacular for the press and for other things, but those kind of edits are going to be important. We're also not using the word retrofit in our work. We're trying to use the word upgrade. So go and get an upgrade, not a retrofit, because people were confused again about retrofit means. So this vocabulary that's available on the resource library can help you and all your staff speak in the same language, and then using that idea of consistency. This would be very helpful. Next one. So here's the tools that are being created for your use. And we're trying to mix, and you can go to the next slide, we're trying to make a mix of things that you can just pull off and use, and things that will also have some branding available. So what are we providing? We are actually going to do some limited media buys, not a ton. There's not a huge budget for it, but we're going to do radio ad buys statewide, as well as online advertising, and that's a really effective way. And since we're driving so many people to the website, we're working on that. But we're also going to be able to create some advertising campaigns that will be available for local government. So if you wanted to do a bus shelter ad in your community, we'll have some media and some press available for you to just pull that off and use it from Energy Upgrade California. We're going to have collateral, so trifold brochures, and these are actually already available for you to use. Fact sheets, talking points. We have a video that has been created for a 6-minute kind of long-term video, as well as TV spots that you can use and place in your market. B-roll, which is the kind of generic shots that you might want to use with your news media people. We're going to have that available for you to access and to use in your materials. And also social marketing. We're going to be doing a lot of that. We have a blog. We're talking about Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. Next. So we are trying to fill in the gaps where we can to supplement local marketing, but it's so that we're not going to be replacing other ones. So for instance, on the radio spots, if we know that there's a county that is already doing lots of radio, we're not going to try and overcome that. Again, we really feel like the local is the #1 in this effort, and that the state is really supporting you to do as much as you can to leverage that effort. And we're doing things like PSAs and other energy tips will be happening. Next slide. So again, I kind of mentioned some of these things. Some of these are going to be customizable, where you can add local information about the rebates incentives. We have a trifold brochure that is available that has a blank sheet in the middle that will be able to be edited and put your information. So I know that from county to county we will have different things, and some have more incentives, some have less, but this is going to be a way of you going to be able to easily customize that. We're also going to create a decision-making tool so that if you have a certain budget and you have only a certain capacity, what is your best path to marketing? And we'll provide you sort of here, if you have X, Y, and Z, you should go on this path. If you have a different way, you should take this path, and sort of help you identify what you should be doing. We're also going to provide ongoing support and coordination for you. We understand some of you might have a lot of materials or ideas that you want to get out there. We want to help you to get that to happen. And I think that also happens around public relations. We have some of that. We recognize that, again, we want the local governments to take the first role on public relations, because you know your local contacts, you know the media, but we want to supplement that. We want to provide you additional tools, for instance, as was mentioned earlier by Brennan, a press release that you can add to. You can use some of the quotes for us from that. Or just use it whole cloth and add your county name and your county PIO information. So we're trying to give you an entire spectrum of tools, from someone who doesn't have a lot of capacity to someone who does have lots of capacity. Next. So this is a little shot of the resource library, and this is if there's a couple questions I can see that we have for what are the resource library. And the resource library will be available and is available for local governments as well as participating contractors. And on there you will find all these materials available for downloading, and we'll be continuing to download to upload things. The ones that are up there right now are not fully customizable, but so they're the ones that you can just basically print out and you can start using them. We're getting those customizable ones up as soon as possible in the next week or so. We're also developing and trying to get this online as quickly as possible as well, a print-on-demand site, so that you'll be able to go online, say I'm going to print 1,000 brochures with our logo on it. We have a quick check on it, and it goes out and it gets delivered right to your office. So making it as easy as possible. Okay, I got to go quick wrap it up here. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things we will also be getting up there is protocols for use. Local governments have a much broader availability. We do have a very tight control we want to make sure we have on contractors, because we don't want our brand to get diluted. So we want to make sure that whoever is using it is participating, who has been registered, and that the materials they're sending out with this logo is appropriate and effective. So when in doubt, ask us if it's okay. And we'll get more into this, and this will be available on the resource library soon too. Next. And we're going to just flip through these quickly. So we have PowerPoint templates available. Click through. Brochures. Go through again. Posters and flyers in language. These are some of the samples of the outdoor bus shelter ads that we'll have available for you. as well as online advertising, banners, and so forth that will be available for you to use and place in your market. And contractor materials, from lawn signs to brochures to web buttons, and that's it. Done. So now I'm going to turn over to Melinda from the County of Los Angeles.
Thanks, Mindy. We're actually going to turn it over to Kathy with the Public Utilities Commission and Joanne with PG&E. But before we do that, I do just want to mention we did get a number of questions. We actually will not be able to take those right at this time because we kind of cut into our question and answer portion there, but we have received them and we are in the process of forwarding all those questions on to the appropriate speaker. So if all the speakers from this first panel will be looking through the chat function for those and start to get some replies back to us, we'll be doing it that way. Anything that doesn't get answered through the webinar today, we'll be happy to post some Q&As on our website so you can see some of those answers. So thanks everybody for their understanding. We do hope to still have some time at the end of the webinar for you to answer any of your questions. A couple of these came up that I know will be covered in the next panel, so some of these might be answered as we move forward. So turning it over now, the Public Utilities Commission and the investor-owned utilities have been really a key driving force for Energy Upgrade California, so we want to hear a little bit about their involvement and the resources that they have available now. Kathy Fogel is a senior analyst for residential new construction and zero net energy programs for the efficiency planning section of the California Public Utilities Commission, and she'll be on first, and then after we'll have Joanne Panchana, who is a program manager in mass market energy solutions and services at Pacific Gas and Electric. So with that, I will turn it over to Kathy, and let's see if I can unmute you here. And you should be good to go, Kathy.
Okay, great. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So I'm going to take kind of a giant step back from the real detailed presentations we've just heard, which have been terrific, and talk about how the California Public Utilities Commission and then consequently the investor-owned utilities in the state got involved in Energy Upgrade California. Next slide. And to do that, I'm first just going to review a little bit about the state agencies in California involved in energy policy. So the CPUC is a state agency that regulates rates and other aspects of all sorts of industries in California, not only energy, but also telecommunications, rail, water. We have a large energy division. We have about 120 staff, and the four largest utilities that we regulate are the investor-owned utilities, PG&E, Southern California Edison, Southern California Gas, and San Diego Gas and Electric. So we set electricity and natural gas rates. We approve long-term procurement plans for these utilities, and we oversee energy efficiency portfolios and programs operated by these utilities. As many of you hopefully know, the California Energy Commission is California's lead energy policy agency. So it engages in a wide variety of policy and research activities. And some of the relevant ones for today are energy efficiency standard setting for buildings and appliances. And the Energy Commission is also, as we've heard a lot about, the state energy program administering federal stimulus funds. And they'll be also the lead agency developing regulations to implement AB 758, the Skinner Bill, which was adopted in 2009, and which calls for development of comprehensive residential and commercial energy retrofit regulations. And the CPUC will be working with the Energy Commission on that project. And the Air Resources Board undertakes such activities as enforcement of air quality laws and is the lead agency on the development of regulations for the implementation and enforcement of AB 32. Next slide. So in 2003, 2005, and then again in 2008, the California Energy Commission and the CPUC jointly adopted something called the Energy Action Plan. So this plan identifies a loading order of preferred energy resources such that the utilities in the state are mandated to procure energy resources starting with all cost-effective energy efficiency available. That's the negawatts we've been talking about. Also then next, demand response opportunities, mainly focusing on reducing peak energy demand, renewables, and then the cleanest available fossil fuel generation. Next slide. After adopting the Energy Action Plan, the CPUC in 2006 felt that it would be important to expand the kinds of energy efficiency activities encouraged by the CPUC in our role as regulator. The commissioners wanted to move away from the widget-by-widget-based energy efficiency savings approach to a broader, longer-term approach called market transformation. So market transformation in the energy efficiency sector is defined as long-lasting, sustainable changes in the structure or functioning of a market achieved by reducing barriers to the adoption of energy efficiency measures to the point where continuation of the same publicly funded intervention is no longer appropriate in that specific market. In short, the CPUC wanted to create more innovation and engagement on energy efficiency for the long term. Next slide. So starting in 2007 and then completed in 2008, the CPUC Energy Division here led the development of the California Long-Term Energy Efficiency Strategic Plan. This identified market transformation needs, strategies, and goals. And the plan was developed in a very intensive stakeholder process that involved about 40 workshops and over 500 participants. And state and local agencies, including the Energy Commission and perhaps many of you on the line, participated, as well as utilities, public and investor-owned, private entities and nonprofit entities, and it covered all economic sectors in California, as well as several cross-cutting areas, including codes and standards, demand-side management coordination, workforce education and training, etc. There's also a local government workshop track, which many of you may have participated in or heard about, and a local government chapter is included in the plan. So the plan can be found, if you haven't seen it yet or heard about it, on engage360.com under the Find Out More tab. Or it can be found on the CPUC's energy efficiency portion of the CPUC's website. Next slide. So to develop the plan chapters for the residential sector, stakeholders were invited to attend several public workshops held around the state, and then subcommittees and a steering group were formed, and data and proposals were vetted and prioritized, and then formed into a group recommendation, which then had pretty good buy-in. Next slide. So the primary residential strategies and goals that resulted from that work were that residential whole house energy solutions should be aggressively attacked, that growing electrical plug loads, mostly from entertainment centers and computers, should also be similarly attacked. Construction of new homes in California should aim for high levels of whole house efficiency and ultimately zero net energy. And the need for visual display tools to educate consumers was highlighted, and other needs, including the need for a one-stop shop to direct consumers to residential whole house solutions, which you've heard a lot about today. And then the plan adopted ambitious energy reduction goals for the residential sector for California for 2015 and 2020, which you can see on the screen. Next slide. So after numerous rounds of public review, the CPUC adopted the strategic plan in 2008 and then directed the utilities that we regulate to incorporate plan goals and strategies into their energy efficiency portfolios for 2010 through 12. And so to facilitate the IOU development of a residential whole house program, CPUC staff led several stakeholder workshops seeking input on whole house program design. And then in September 2009, the CPU approved a investor-owned utility funding for $116 million statewide whole house program and provided broad direction on the program elements. In 2010, that program came to be called Energy Upgrade California, when CPUC and investor-owned utilities joined the Energy Commission and some of the local government program administrators and decided we really needed to merge our efforts and combine this utility program funding for this approach with the federal stimulus funding that came online in 2009. And we've already heard a lot about the really innovative things that came out of that federal stimulus funding. Next slide. So because of this partnership approach, the total funding for Energy Upgrade California is, of course, far greater than the about $100 million approved for the investor-owned utility programs by the CPUC. And this slide just provides an overview of some of the other funding sources and levels, which come both directly from Department of Energy as well as from the Energy Commission through the federal stimulus funds and other sources of funding as well. Next slide. So as we've kind of been talking about today in terms of the really innovative efforts that are going into identifying ways to remove market barriers around whole house approaches. The effort in the CPUC's mind is aimed at market transformation. So we really want home and building owners to significantly reduce their energy use on the order of like about 20 to 40% or more, which would be in line with the strategic plan goals. And the utility, investor-owned utility programs, which you'll hear about next, focus on training contractors and also establishing the certification standards necessary for contractors to access the Energy Upgrade California rebates offered by the investor-owned utilities. And the utilities have, as you've heard a little bit about, Mindy talked about it a little, they have a basic and advanced rebate path. And we're really working as hard as we can to integrate these, the Energy Commission DOE approaches with the utility rebate and training approaches to see that it's as seamless as possible. And the combined goals for the homes to reach adopted by the CPUC for the investor-owned utilities for the next 3 years are somewhere between 40 and 50,000 homes, which is really quite ambitious, and we have a lot of work to do. Next slide. So hopefully this webinar provides a lot of information today to you so you can figure out how to get involved. As I mentioned, over 95% of the funds authorized to the investor-owned utilities for this program will be spent in the next 2 years. And currently, they have about 500 homes at various stages of, I guess I should say, upgrade rather than retrofit across California. In 2011, the utility program will be expanded to serve multifamily and middle-income direct install customers. San Diego Gas and Electric will be launching a multifamily pilot in conjunction with some federal stimulus funded efforts in San Diego County, hopefully before the start, or right around the start of Q2 this year. And hopefully that will go to a statewide approach later this year. And there's what's called a middle-income direct install pilot that is currently being implemented in PG&E service territory and with some of their local government partners, and that we also hope to expand to a statewide basis this year. You've heard all about the website and the contractor database, and I think Christine Colopy at the start mentioned and others mentioned the opportunities for stakeholder engagement both at the local and regional and statewide level. So again, the California Public Utilities Commission is really committed to Energy Upgrade California for the long term. We really do think it's a truly groundbreaking approach to have so many entities involved in this partnership, and we hope you will join us. And there have been a couple of questions asked during the previous speakers' presentations about Flex Your Power, and so I'll address that now. So Flex Your Power as a brand has existed for, not exactly sure, about 5 to 10 years as the statewide marketing brand for energy efficiency and demand response. It's been funded through ratepayer funds and implemented through utilities and through a contract they held with the Flex Your Power brand company. And the Commission in 2007 requested that a review of this brand take place and with the possibility of seeing whether it needed to be replaced. And a review of the brand did take place. A brand assessment was conducted, overseen by the CPUC and investor-owned utilities in 2007 to 8. It was conducted by Interbrand. And Interbrand found that Flex Your Power did not have a very good unaided recall by the stakeholders that it interviewed. And so that the brand equity was not seen to be was seen to be somewhat low, despite the fact that it had been out in the marketplace for a while. So the CPUC, I believe it was in 2008 or 9, took a decision to investigate developing a new statewide, more broader clean energy brand. And this was done by, again, under contract with the investor-owned utilities and oversight by the CPUC by a company called, I guess it was also Interbrand that also conducted that. And after many iterations and much focus group work and a lot of quantitative as well as qualitative research, the name finally selected for the new statewide clean energy brand was Engage 360. So there is a new website, engage360.com. We have set up arrangements for the utilities and the old Flex Your Power rebate database to be transferred directly to Energy Upgrade California. I haven't heard that any problems with that yet. I'm sure some might come up. So, but we do intend to keep that cooperative partnership in place. And we have tried to make the two brands, they've just ended up being rolled out simultaneously. We've tried to have them work well together and be mutually reinforcing and coordinating. And Engage 360 is having kind of a grassroots launch this year. There'll be a lot of work to raise awareness amongst leaders in communities, community groups, mayors, other celebrities, sports figures, et cetera, and really kind of try and get a broad grassroots, build some grassroots awareness about the brand, and then launch some mass media around the brand next year. So with that, I will end. Thank you very much.
All right,
Hello.
Joanne, you're on.
Thanks, Kate. Hello, this is Joanne Ponchana. I'm the program manager at PG&E, running our whole house programs. Luckily for me, it sounds like everybody did such a great job presenting that some of my material is gone, but that's okay. Hopefully we can run through this and have time for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and, Kate, if you wouldn't mind skipping through the first couple slides. They were just an overview of Energy Upgrade California, which I think hopefully everyone's gotten ingrained. But I did want to talk a little bit about the utility-specific roles. Actually, back one slide, sorry. The utility-specific roles within Energy Upgrade California. So the key roles of the utilities being PG&E, Southern California Edison, Southern California Gas, and San Diego Gas and Electric are to really help offset the high cost of retrofits. We understand that for homeowners this is a large investment that we're asking them to make, and we're hoping that the rebates can help offset that. Additionally, we're hoping to use our brand as a trusted energy advisor to help local governments, help contractors, provide that messaging and try to make energy personal for the customers. And along with what Kathy had been mentioning earlier, we want to create a line of sight for customers between the single measure rebates that we continue to offer and the more comprehensive improvements that we all want to drive our customers towards. And in that, aggregate the current measures into larger, more comprehensive rebates. Next slide. So I'm going to go ahead and describe the packages. We've alluded to them throughout the presentation, but to give you a little bit more detail on what's included in the basic and advanced packages for the utility rebates. We have an incentive of $1,000 for performing these measures: attic insulation, attic air sealing, duct sealing, low-flow shower head or thermostatic valve, installation of domestic hot water pipes, and a combustion safety test, which will also include the installation of combustion safety monitoring. And if you complete all those measures with a participating contractor, the homeowner will get the $1,000. And this is really seen as an entry point for both the homeowner and the contractor to get into looking at the home of the system and really addressing some of the less known energy users like the insulation and air sealing in a home, but without preventing the homeowner from being able to engage in more comprehensive retrofits further down the line. There's also an entry point for contractors in that the requirements are a little bit less stringent for the basic package to onboard contractors, help provide them training and education so that they can provide the more advanced packages that I'll describe on the next slide. So the advanced package, I've got a few items listed, but really it's a package that focuses on an individual homeowner and what their needs are. It involves a diagnostic audit by a participating contractor. And in that diagnostic audit, they'll develop with the customer based on the highest potential for energy savings and individual homeowner needs, like if there's a drafty room, if they have indoor air quality issues, various other things of that nature. They'll develop a comprehensive work scope. Most likely, the advanced package will include basic measures if they've not already been performed at the house previously, and could include things like wall insulation, the proper sizing of heating and cooling systems, and water heating systems, in addition to other energy-saving measures. And as I mentioned before, we'll continue to do combustion safety testing. It's very important for us to make sure that we focus on safety when we're talking with homeowners and contractors, because as we go in and seal up these homes, the risk of combustion gases causing health issues increases. So we really want to make sure that we're leaving the homes as safe, if not safer, than when we started the work. You can go ahead to the next slide. So here's the fun part, show me the money. This is a chart showing the rebate values for the investor-owned utilities. As you can see, as I mentioned earlier, that basic package is $1,000. And then the advanced package I mentioned has a tiered rebate system. For the Southern California utilities, SCE, SCG, SDG&E, they start their package at 10%, and PG&E starts at 15%. And that is modeled site energy reduction. So the contractor works with the homeowner to, as part of the diagnostic audit, to model the energy use of a home both before and after the retrofit, and that difference is what gives us the savings reduction and associated rebate amount, which we provide up to $4,000 per home. And if you go on to the next slide, I think I have some examples of items in the advanced package. People always say, well, what can be included? Here's just a small list. There's some other things that can be included, and we're constantly working with the market to determine if there's other items that homeowners and contractors would like to install that have quantifiable energy savings that can be modeled using our software. But these are just a few things that might be included. What we're seeing, at least in the early adopters, is a lot of the customers who join the program have a system that is either old or failing, and it's a good segue into having the discussion about the home as a system. So if you're going to replace your heating or cooling equipment, it makes sense to address insulation, air sealing, ducts, so that you can most efficiently move that cooled or heated air and hopefully downsize the equipment. And trying to convey that message has been a great benefit of the program. Go ahead to the next slide. So from a customer perspective, I know we've been talking a lot about some of the benefits and messaging and education that's going to be going to customers, but I think really it's I don't think we can say enough how much this coordinated message between all the entities, the utilities, the local governments, and the contractors is a benefit to homeowners. Having that one consistent message, those terms that were referenced earlier, being consistent with that is a great benefit. In addition to the obvious benefits of increased comfort, energy savings. As part of the program, Contractors facilitate the application process, so hopefully there's a little impact to the homeowner in terms of trying to go through the weeds on that, and also that all these retrofit work can be completed at once. And then another great benefit is an incentive check from the local utility. The utilities have been working together to make sure that there's ability to do split incentives. So each utility would pay for the fuel that they provide, the rebate for the fuel that they provide, to equal the total rebate amount. And we're also working regionally with various municipalities to try to accomplish the same thing. And in the Southern California utilities, the customer can designate the contractor as the payee to add extra benefit to the customer. And PG&E is also providing extensive quality assurance and combustion safety testing. Next slide. All right, I'm getting short on time, so I'm going to start speeding up, but feel free to ask questions if there's anything that comes up. Customer eligibility. To be eligible for the utility incentive, they must be a utility customer for one of the 4 investor-owned utilities. Currently, we're focused on single-family residential customers, but as Kathy mentioned earlier, we're working towards multifamily offerings, and regionally have some ability to accommodate duplexes or small multifamily. So please contact your local utility for more information on that. And the work has to be performed by a participating contractor and meet the program guidelines and specifications. And this note on the bottom that best candidates for participation could achieve at least 10% savings. That's the goal of the program overall is, as I believe Kathy had highlighted in her slide, to achieve 20% savings on average. Obviously, we'd like to see more, but we want to make sure that customers are willing to make the effort and to make some deeper retrofits. So 10% is kind of a threshold, although that's by no means a guideline. Next slide. And here's a list of some of the contractor requirements to ensure quality in the program, to ensure safety of program participants. We have some stringent contractor requirements, but we're hoping that our processes can streamline this so contractors can onboard quickly. But they include valid California state license, bonding, insurance. Obviously, they have to sign a participation agreement and attend some training courses by us to be involved in the basic path. The combustion safety test must be performed by a certified BPI analyst. And to be a part of the advanced program, the contractor must have a BPI certification of an individual on the payroll or be accredited to participate in those jobs. And that's part of our process to move contractors towards further education and certifications. Next slide. I'm not going to go into the details on quality assurance since we're getting low on time, but I do want to point out that the utilities are very focused on ensuring quality and safety in these programs, and we have pretty stringent guidelines, more so than most of our other energy efficiency programs, to ensure safety and that work is performed to quality. And it's based on a contractor-by-contractor basis instead of a random sample, to focus on also educating that contractor on how to do the work properly. And then once we feel comfortable with the work that they're doing, reducing the amount of verifications needed. Next slide. All right, so we've been talking a lot about marketing materials and outreach. And so in addition to what the local government and the CEC are doing, the investor-owned utilities are also putting together statewide marketing materials with our logos and branding on it as well. So as you can see here, we're putting together materials for both the contractor and the customer to help the contractor market and sell this program. We're putting together a 3-piece sales marketing toolkit, email templates, and a fact sheet. And then we also have customer-facing materials in the form of brochures, program posters, direct mail, and print ads. And these printed materials will definitely be available to our local government partners to use in their marketing as well. And as a special sneak peek, although I have to warn that they're not in the final version, that's purposely why they might be a little blurry on your screen. If you go to the next slide, we have a sneak peek of some of the utility branded marketing materials and some of the things that we are going to be focused on. The key of these materials is to focus on, obviously, the utility incentives and providing some education and outreach to the customer. So this is one example of a tri-fold brochure. And if you go to the next slide, we also have a preview of a fact sheet that's coming out that describes, as I mentioned, the basic and advanced packages and some other logistics of participating in the utility programs. If you can go to the next slide. So as mentioned earlier, we really want to drive customers to the energyupgradecalifornia.org portal. That's really the focal point where they can find information about all the program offerings that are available. But I did want to include the utility websites, as I know that sometimes customers or homeowners want to, might not be familiar with Energy Upgrade California brand yet. They will be soon. But if they do want to see a utility branded presence, I've listed the direct website links for each of the utilities so that you can have access to those. They also will, Energy Upgrade California links directly to those as well if you go to the utility-specific sites. So with that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Thanks, Joanne. Finally, local governments have been the ones stepping out really in front and implementing Energy Upgrade California on the ground. So at this point, we want to hear from Melinda Barrett, who is the Marketing and Public Relations Manager for the Los Angeles County Office of Sustainability. She's developing and implementing mass marketing and community and contractor based outreach to support the $70 million Energy Upgrade California project in Los Angeles County. So we will turn it over to Melinda, and then we will go ahead and take questions at the very end.
Hello, everybody. Hello there. Can you hear me? It says I'm unmuted, so I'm going to take it on faith. Next slide, please. I'm going to try to give you a sort of overview of exactly what we're doing in Los Angeles County. Even though our county is a lot larger than most, I think a lot of what we're doing can be replicated in most jurisdictions throughout the state, and sort of answer the question of why, which is one we get frequently. Why? What is the advantage of having local government involved in this process? Next slide, please. So the main reason is that we have a lot of really similar goals. In LA County, we initially started this effort to develop PACE financing with our EECBG block grant funds, and to go out and get additional funds to make a robust countywide program. But our goals are to achieve 18,000 upgrades by 2013, and we have a total of $35 million to put toward that effort from various sources. And Southern California Edison and Southern California Gas have a similar goal of 13,000 upgrades by 2012 to meet their strategic goals. And they're bringing $38 million in our county area. If you could click through, there's two other goals that are above and beyond, but which are motivating us to move forward wholeheartedly on this effort, to create jobs, in particular green jobs and construction jobs, which LA County needs desperately, and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and CO2 to meet other goals that all of us have as local jurisdictions. Next slide, please. So we started with about $15 million in block grants that most of us got. We applied for competitive EECBG funds and received $30 million statewide. That was one of the bullets on one of Kathy's slides, to do various pilot programs to test innovative approaches to increase the number of upgrades and energy efficiency. And then we have another chunk of about $8 million from the Energy Commission to really make this a countywide program. So the block grant funds apply to our county unincorporated areas, and the additional funds allow us to reach out into the 88 cities within the county and have a comprehensive unified program. Next slide. The main partners here, and we've been working together for well over a year, are LA County, Southern California Edison. Can you move to the next slide, please? And Southern California Gas, and then click twice. And we are also working to bring in our municipal-owned utilities and public-owned utilities, the largest of which is the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which serves about 4 million people in our county of 10 million. The 88 cities and councils of government in the county, and the workforce investment boards and community colleges who are interested in green jobs training and have additional funding to bring to the table. Next slide, please. So really the county's role is sort of a hub to bring all of these partners together at various times and in various forums to encourage and help facilitate a unified program. Next slide, please. So the municipal utilities are generally served by either Southern California Gas or Southern California Edison. And this just kind of gives an idea of our jurisdiction in terms of the county. Obviously, the utility territories go beyond our borders, but within LA County, we are able to provide an additional incentive to any county resident, regardless of which IOU they're served by. Next slide. Our county incentive is an additional $500 for upgrades that achieve 20% reduction or more. And there's a little asterisk here that some of my local government counterparts will find interesting, that in order to get that additional incentive, the homeowner has to sign a release allowing us to access their information. And I'm going to have to speed up here because I'm never going to get through all this. Next slide, please. Fortunately, Joanna already showed the packages. This just shows the additional county incentive on top of the IOU incentive. Next slide. We are currently, as I said, working with DWP to make sure that, and also Sid Swaim from the gas company has been working with them closely to make sure that they have something that's comparable to a whole house program. They are very interested in being part of Energy Upgrade California, and I believe are receiving CEC funds for other programs, commercial financing. Next slide. Our basic strategy here is, again, to facilitate and bring people together and to engage the contractor community, the sort of grassroots community, and the individual consumers. The contractor engagement piece has been going on jointly with the IOUs. We have been providing additional outreach and marketing materials to supplement with the IOU training program. We sponsored, we're a primary sponsor of the recent ACI conference in LA. We are also currently working with our community organizations that we have good ties with and bringing the cities in to work with their own residents using the channels that they have already got developed and used so well. Using the statewide research and other sort of housing stock information, we have targeted specific areas for intense outreach where we think the highest percentage of retrofit ready and retrofit persuadable folks live. And our $850,000 plus media campaign, which is obviously not something everyone can do, launches Monday. So that's pretty exciting. And the home energy makeover contest will be a big feature in that, and we hope a big publicity draw. I know people had questions about that, so I will be talking about it a little bit later in the presentation. Next slide, please. The main format for getting all this work achieved is collaboration in the form of a lot of meetings. We have a lot of committees to address specific topics, and then subcommittees and work groups. All of us have been to a lot of meetings and talked a lot, but it has been very effective. We have achieved a lot. It's a little bit like herding cats, but we're getting there. And everybody, has participated equally. Next slide, please. Just from the county's perspective, our own local launch, as I said, starts next week. We will be doing the Home Energy Makeover Contest and the Community Energy Champions as pilot programs funded by our DOE grant. There are some additional ones: green building labeling, multifamily, HVAC, contractor outreach, but those will be rolled out a little bit later. And then in addition to the main hotline and website as resident resources, There's a dedicated county call center to answer county-specific questions about things like our DOE pilot program, the makeover contest, for instance, which isn't sponsored by the IOUs. Next slide, please. I'm not going to talk about this next slide that much. Mindy talked about it. We have all these materials up and running. Ads, every kind of ad you can imagine. The next slide, please, is about our Energy Champions program, which is a pilot that will provide incentives to community-based organizations for helping us to market the program, basically. They will we will give them tools and resources to promote the program to their members, and they get a cash incentive for each completed upgrade. Next slide, please. The Home Energy Makeover Contest is launching countywide. We have sponsors, equipment, and contractor sponsors. There'll be 5 winners, 1 for each area supervisor district, and a grand prize winner that will receive a near net zero upgrade worth up to about $50,000. And anybody who would...
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Web Events Made Easy.
Letter that will probably go out March 1st or 2nd with flyers and counter stands, etc., to help you promote this to your residents in coordination with the overall marketing campaign and ads that will be starting. And then the last segment, if you could switch 2 slides here, the last segment is exactly how we're working with our local governments under the county, meaning the cities within the county, is we're asking them specifically to be advocates for the program, to get their residents to the website, to ask them to call a contractor and complete an upgrade. Next slide, please. And we have 6 things that we're asking them to do. The first is adopt a resolution to participate, which 73 of them have already done. Promote the program through their existing channels with materials that we provide, using their networks and local media contacts. Allow their staff either to be trained or those that already are trained and have expertise in energy efficiency to be dedicated to being the point person in their city and providing some time. And next slide, please. We have resources for them to adopt the resolution. Next slide. We have a whole toolkit of materials for them to use. We've already seen many of these things, PowerPoints, emails, newsletters, that they can use in their very effective marketing efforts already. Next slide. We are available for community events, and we also can provide materials. Next, you've seen a lot of this, so I'm going to rush through it. All of these things are available in the online resource library and are supported by our countywide efforts and our pilot marketing area efforts. Next slide, please. We provide staff training and talking points and just a whole bunch of stuff. Next slide, please. Actually, if you can click through, the next one is also the resource library, which you've heard about. It's very easy to access, and we have more materials coming soon. And next slide. I don't want to go over each one, but it's very easy to log on and find this stuff and download it. Next slide. We also have materials in English, Spanish, Chinese. We have Korean and Vietnamese on the way. We have events, an events calendar, and we have this city newsletter where we are asking cities to help us populate the website because we currently have access to it, and maybe all of our cities don't. And also, through the COGS, we're getting feedback from them and trying to to really solicit how we can help them and what materials they need. Many of them have building officials and building staff that are very interested in promoting the program and knowing more about it. We've met with city managers. There's a lot going on, and I'd be happy to answer questions. The next slide is the last slide with my contact info. And there's actually a lot more, but I think that's enough for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Melinda. We've had a lot of good information presented. I know it's probably overwhelming, the degree of information that has just been presented. We have been able to answer a lot of the questions through the question function and through the chat function. But I do want to turn it over to Atisha at this time to go ahead and bring up some of the other questions that we haven't been able to address yet. And I will unmute all of our panelists. So if you aren't responding to a question, please mute yourself on your own phone. Thank you.
Okay, I figured we'd start our first question maybe directed to Melinda, who might be able to answer. The question is there any effort focused on streamlining permit requirements for local jurisdictions for projects brought to the permit counter by the contractors?
You know, some of our cities have already made certain concessions for different kinds of permits. So far, as I said, we've been working with building officials, providing information to both county building officials and city building officials. They don't see anything necessarily unusual about the measures that would impact their operations too much, but it is very beneficial for them to know about the program, to know that it's coming, so they can be prepared. Hopefully there'll be a rush. And they're also interested in getting the word out to contractors to help with, you know, job creation and that sort of thing. So some cities are doing that on their own. Within LA County, they're not consistent. The building codes and permit procedures vary city to city. So I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Melinda. Another question we had was, please address when Energy Upgrade California will be available to Orange County residents. Someone had just put in the Huntington Beach address and the website, informed them that it didn't support their area. And then we had an answer to that. Local publicly owned utilities do not currently have the whole house rebate program, but you can check with your local utility about the timing of the program rollout, and you can still check for rebates in your area through the portal. Then we had another question about when will HERS 2 be required for retrofits. And the program is working to transition to HERS 2 this July 2011. Let's look at some that haven't been answered. There was a question, will there be a central clearinghouse for RFP solicitations issued by local governments for energy services? As it is now, it is required to register with every local jurisdiction, for example, ARA-funded projects. Does anyone want to take a stab at that?
This is Melinda. I'm not sure I understand the question in terms of in order to participate in this residential program, contractors would go through the training and sign the participation agreement, and then they're on their own from there. It's not an RFP process, and it's not the government. We're not hiring the contractors. It's an agreement between the customer and the contractor. So I'm not sure I'm not sure that question is related to this particular program.
Kurt, did that answer your question? I unmuted you if you want to follow up.
This question is not related to this particular program, so I probably asked it out of line, but thank you. It was related to general. It was related to general solicitations that go out for stimulus-funded projects. It's very difficult for contractors to see those solicitations coming unless there's a central clearinghouse. Thank you.
Okay. One of the questions that came up that we did answer, but I think is maybe worth a further discussion, is how how the communities were chosen. So how were the program plus counties chosen and designated as such versus the program basic? So Brennan, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Hello, sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. So yes, the Program Plus counties were selected by the California Energy Commission for being leadership counties that were already making significant efforts towards supporting energy efficiency programs and related programs. So many of them have been involved in soliciting, submitting proposals for funding to various parties to try to participate in, to try to establish programs. Many of them had already passed resolutions at a local level to support these kinds of programs, or had funded efforts through, for instance, their local sustainability office, or had identified this as a key aspect of accomplishing their climate action goals.
I'm just looking at David's question, will Energy Upgrade California work on providing a standard, accurate computer model that can be used for comprehensive home energy audits? And for that one, the Energy Commission approves HERS2 rating software, and rater service providers CalCert's currently for HERS2, and has approved the use of additional interim performance approach, or IPA software, currently called Energy Pro. The Energy Commission will be continuing in this role as the program develops in communication with IOUs and the CPUC.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. Kathy Fogel had provided that response. This is Christine from the Energy Commission, and that is correct. The IPA, or the interim performance approach, is going to be effective until July of 2011, and if there's any changes to that, everyone will be notified.
Great, thank you, Christine.
So it looks like most of the other questions have already been answered through the chat function. If anyone else has questions, please go ahead and type those in. We'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and conclude. Unless any of the panelists want to discuss any of the questions that they've answered through the chat function. One of the questions I saw that came up was who should local government staff contact if they're interested in serving on the advisory committee board, that's the local government advisory committee. And you can go ahead and contact Brennan Jensen with Ecology Action, and I sent her email, so you can either contact her directly or through the Ecology Action Energy Upgrade California email provided there. So we really encourage all of you to think about that, and either talk to your elected officials, or if you're the appropriate staff person, to please follow up on that, because we really need as much input and engagement as possible to make this program successful. So I'm going to take one last look to see if any new questions came in. You see that? We have one come in that says, can we go ahead and share the Energy Upgrade California website with our community members on our Facebook, Twitter feeds, or do we need to wait until next week? So can folks move forward since the soft launch has already started, or do they need to wait for the hard launch to do that?
This is Christine with the Energy Commission. I would say now the site is live. The only difference really between today and Monday is that all of the marketing collateral will be going out, or in terms of having ads be heard and seen around the state. So we've been making corrections to the site since it went live a few weeks ago. So the site is ready to be forwarded to everyone and anyone you can think about.
This is Melinda. I would just, in Los Angeles County, I think that cities will get a little more traction with it if it's timed with the media launch and the press releases and all that. But yeah, the more the better. It's nice to have a big splash all at once. But
yeah, so if you're a local community who's waiting, or a local government who's waiting to do a blast, you might want to wait until Monday, because that's when you're going to see their news releases or the press releases going out to the statewide services.
Yeah, and that's March 1st?
March 1st.
Correct.
And we'll also be sending LA County will be sending a city newsletter to all the cities that are participating. That will make it very easy for them to forward to their residents and post on their website and all that kind of other stuff. So if you want to wait a few days, we'll give you some help.
I also would say that I would recommend for folks to go onto the resource library, and if you don't have access, we should get that to you, but to get the talking points and the information and get those out to all the people who might be called by the press, so that when March 1st comes, you actually have folks who are ready to go and can answer some of the questions that might come out and are prepared as possible, because I think that will be one of the challenges as we do launch on March 1st, is that there's going to be a lot of questions out there.
And again, I hate to keep doing this, but if you're in LA County, we have a hotline. And you can call me and or refer people to the hotline, which is staffed by the Bay Environmental Services Center, South Bay COG, and they are well-staffed and well-trained to answer all the questions people might have.
Hi, this is
number
Swain from, I'm sorry, Melinda, go ahead.
I was just going to say the number is actually in the presentation. Sorry, Sid, go ahead.
That's okay. This is Sid Swain from SoCal Gas. I just wanted to clarify the question regarding the Orange County residents. I believe Edison and SoCal Gas do serve that territory, so if they're looking for Energy Upgrade California as far as the utility program, that is available in their area. If they're looking for a county program, I know that Orange County has been meeting with both Edison and SoCal. They're just not quite sure how they're going to incorporate this program into their county. I just wanted to clarify that there is a program available for the Huntington Beach residents.
So is that something that we can make sure is on the website? Because I think that would be great, that the Energy Upgrade California should represent all the utility programs as well as local governments programs.
I think what he's saying is that the zip code comes up with no program, so that might be a bug. That might be something we need to do.
This is Annie. I'd like to jump in there. So the way that the website works currently, and as we've been informed by our various stakeholders, is that if both your gas and electricity is not served by an investor-owned utility, then technically you do not qualify for the Energy Upgrade California rebate. So those zip codes that were identified as not being served for both their electric and gas do get a message that says this is currently not available in your area. If we have coded incorrect zip codes, I just look forward to somebody sending the specific zip code so that we can do a little bug test and maybe share the URL with me, and you can send that to feedback@energyupgradeca.org.
I think that's an Orange County one, Annie, not an LA County. I'm not sure if it's the same in Orange County.
It should be. The only publicly owned one is the City of Anaheim, but I believe in Orange County.
So then they should come up as qualifying.
Yeah, yes, right.
Yeah.
So again, if you can share the zip code so that we can replicate the problem, that'll make it much easier to solve.
Great. Any other closing remarks from our panelists? Well, with that, I will thank you all for joining us today. Thanks to our speakers for all the great information they provided. The PowerPoints will be available on our website, like I mentioned. Also, actually, they are available on our website right now, and we will have a recording available within the next week or so you can check back on that. So thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to follow up with myself or any of our speakers. We hope you found it useful, and please take a few minutes as you close out of the webinar. You'll be asked to complete a survey. As I mentioned, your input will help us to offer future events that cover the topics you're most interested in, so I really appreciate any feedback you have. And that concludes our webinar today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kate.